spend the night at your friend Danielle and Brooke with these beautiful twin girls. And like, I wanted to spend time with them, but it was like more than a friendship. I wanted more than a friendship. I didn't know what more than a friendship was at 9 years old, but I knew that like I wanted to be at their house all day after the sleepover. I didn't want to leave, you know? Or it was, you know, I remember walking down the hallway one time in like second or third grade, and there was a very popular girl named Ryan, and she had this beautiful brown swingy hair. And I remember following her all the way down the hall into the library where I think I was on my way to the bathroom or something unrelated, but I was just mesmerized by her hair. And it wasn't a feeling of like, wow, her hair, I mean, it was more. It was this like magnetic pull to women in the same way that I felt a magnetic pull to men, but still as a child. So it's like, it's not necessarily defined as like sexual urges yet because you don't even really know what those are. It's just like a weird sort of nebulous pull. And then it became more defined as I went through puberty. So like then there was going to art museums and being allowed to look at the naked form and like not only allowed but encouraged to look at the naked form, like stare as long as you want at these beautiful naked statues. And so that's when it like really locked in, which is like, oh, you like this in the same way you like that. This is a problem, which is how it felt to me because during all of that time, I was also going to church a lot. And I grew up in the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church is historically, it's not super kind to LGBTQ community. In fact, it believes most of the time that they don't exist, that it's a sin, it's a choice, that you're a sinner if that's who you are. So that was the message that I was receiving at home, at church, in the world, really. Once I really started to figure out what might be going on, then it was like, well, you got to just nip this in the bud right now. You got to pray about it and you make sure nobody knows about it because that means you're going to hell. And maybe this is your big struggle, like they say in church, you know, like maybe the devil is putting this in your heart so that you can fight against it, which is like, that's a fucked up thing to teach a kid, right? Like in my opinion, I mean, everybody is allowed to do what they want, but in my opinion, it's really messed up thing to teach a kid that the core of who you might be is also your greatest challenge and the thing that you're supposed to fight against your whole life.
Who is the first person you told?
That is a good question. I don't remember. I don't think I had a real like sort of, I'm not going to say traditional because nothing about coming out is traditional, but I didn't have I'm going to set up my camera and tell my mom moment. It was like I made out with a girl at a party, or, you know, I started sort of secretly dating a girl that I was doing a play with, or a lot of it was like secret keeping. It was like, oh, we're not really doing this, which I think a lot of people in the gay community have experienced. It's like, let's just keep it on the DL. Let's keep it on the down low. Don't tell anybody that we're doing this because nobody else needs to know. I think one of the first sort of big I need to tell you something was my sister. And at the time, the only response I got was, well, don't tell mom and dad unless it's like really serious. We don't need to upset them or, you know how they're going to be. And that was really painful to hear, even though she was right. It wasn't the response that I don't know what would have been a perfect response though. I mean, I think what would have been a perfect response is the words that our writers put into Rose's mouth on that episode, which is like, I love you no matter what. So if anyone's listening and has anybody that's going to come out to them, that's the perfect response. That was like maybe the first kind of like, hey, this is a thing. I'm bisexual, you know. The relationship that I'm in right now, I think there have been fans of the show that have said like, well, so that was a phase. So that was just like a phase that you were by. And it's like, well, no, because your sexuality doesn't die once you decide to have a monogamous partner. I mean, if it does, I'm so sorry for you. And maybe like think about leaving that partnership, but it doesn't end, right? Sexuality is a constantly changing, evolving, growing thing, and it's always alive. And so even though I'm committed to a heterosexual man for the rest of my life, my sexuality hasn't changed. I am still bisexual. I'm still queer. And that is what's really hard for people to kind of put together in their minds, especially, again, if they don't know people that are LGBTQ, or if they don't want to have those conversations. If they're not open to having those conversations, then they're not going to grow and learn anything about that, which is why I've chosen to be hella open about it, because I'm hoping that that openness creates like ripples, and that maybe someone gets interested, or maybe someone reads an article, or maybe someone has a conversation with a friend and doesn't understand it and wants to know more, you know?
So you said you never thought you'd get married.